Turn up your radio. It's time for DeLorean Talk with your host, Dave Tavers.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of DeLorean Talk. This is Dave Tavers, VIN number 10515. Thanks, as always, for joining. Today I have Shawn Knight, who is the current president of the Pacific Northwest DeLorean Club. I met Shawn March 2017 when I was I happened to be in Seattle for something else and ended up going to their St. Patrick's Day parade and met him out in the pouring rain when we were all huddled under the eaves and talked to him a bunch. He is actually a little bit newer owner than I am. So, Shawn, thanks so much for joining me.
Hey, Dave. Thanks for having me on. Great to be here.
Yeah. So, what is your VIN number and when did you get your car? Because I said you were a little bit younger than me as an owner, right? I bought mine. In fact, yesterday was my 2-year anniversary of picking it up.
Actually, I'm a little bit older owner than you. I got
3 years.
Yeah, I've had mine just over 3 years.
That's okay.
I got mine in December of 2014. Yep.
Oh, 14. Wow. Yeah. So yeah, you're a whole year older. I don't know why I was thinking that.
No problem. Yeah, my VIN is 6214. My car is a November 81 build.
Wow, November 81. I've got a December 81 build, and I'm a whole 10,515. You're in the 6,000 series.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm the I'm the last model or last month of the 81 model years. Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah, because I'm December 81 build, but I'm a 82 model. So what is what is the makeup of your car?
Mine is it has an automatic transmission, and then this last year I just had a stage 2 done on it.
Oh wow, black, gray, grooved hood, fuel flap.
Yep, gray interior with a grooved hood, no fuel flap.
Have you done much customization to the car since you've had it?
Let's see, not too much. It looks fairly stock. I really like the stock look of the DeLorean. I mean, like I put new suspension on it. I've lowered it. That's one thing when I got mine. Like I know all the cars with the stock suspension on them sat up high.
Yeah.
Mine I felt sat up really high. So that was one of the first things I did, and that made a huge difference in the way it rides and handles. It's like when I had the original suspension on it. Yeah, when I first got it, it seemed like if I would get it up much above 65, the front end felt a little too light, and I'd be like, okay, I better slow down.
Yeah, I felt that. I drove Jay Shetland's car a little bit on the highway, and I would have sworn that he had the front end lowered, but he said, no, it's stock. And then when I look at it, I'm like, oh, yeah, it does have that giant space between the tire and the fender. But I don't know what it was. Driving his car, it felt like I could actually see the road in front of the car. And with my car, I feel like, I feel like it's a 4x4 or something. I can't quite see, you can't see over the hood very well.
Yeah. Now, is yours at stock height, or have you had it lowered?
Nope, it's stock.
It's stock. Okay.
Like most people, I love the stance of the lowered front end. But then I talked to some people.
Yeah.
There's another owner here, Mark Montenegro, he got his car when he was 16. And he lowered it right away. And in fact, the first time I met him was at DMC California when he was picking his car up when he had the process reversed. He put the stock back on, the stock springs back on.
Oh, wow.
Because he said every single time he turned in anywhere, he was scraping. Now, maybe he'd gone lower than you or a lot of other people, but he said after, I forget, 15 years or something, he said he just had enough and he went back to the stock springs.
Yeah, I've never had a problem with it scraping, but I know, some people take theirs really low.
Yeah. Oh, I recently was in Northern California. I saw Mark Woodsma just bought the Mongoose car. Holy cow. He'd only, I don't know, he'd only had it a few weeks, I think, or a month. You could not, if you made a fist and then laid down on your stomach at the back of the car, you could not put your fist between the frame and the ground. It's that low. I'm not exaggerating.
Wow.
Absolutely amazing. So he's like, no, I got to raise it up at least an inch because he said it scrapes all over the place. And I think he's done that work. I'm hoping to have him on DeLorean Talk sooner than later. I'd asked him about it when I was there, and he said, yeah, but he wanted to do work to the car first. And that was in, end of November or so. So you had
Gotcha.
you had your springs, you put in different suspension. Anything else?
Mm-hmm.
Stock stereo, new stereo, or was it already?
No, I've had new stereo. I had a new stereo put in, new speakers, all that. Because I had the original, I got it, and it just sounded terrible. So I can now I can play music on my Bluetooth, and stuff like that.
Right. Well, I can too, and I have an ASI radio.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a Craig radio originally.
I sent my ASI stock radio off to Dimitri in France, and he put a Bluetooth receiver in it, so it's awesome.
Oh, that's right. I think you mentioned that to me. Yes. Yeah. I briefly thought about doing something like that, and then, I just ended up going with a new stereo.
Yeah. And I'm just I'm not a freak about it, but I like you, I like the look of the car. And there's something about when you get into the cockpit, forget about the radio. It looks like a 1980s car, right? It doesn't look futuristic.
It totally does.
Anyway, yeah. So I didn't.
No.
I don't know. I didn't want to put in a different stereo that would. It would look so completely out of place, in my opinion. But to each his own. I also, when people do crazy stuff to their car, I'm like, great, go for it. I'm not a nut job that says you're not allowed to do that to your own car. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I think the stereo that's really the only thing about the interior I'm really gonna change. The only other thing I did is those like stainless shift plates you can get, and put down, put on by your shifter. Yeah, I got one of those.
Oh, nice.
Just to kind of add a little something different to it. So.
I have a manual, and I've looked at those. It has that shift pattern, all the fingers there, and it looks kind of cool. But then I really like the boot. It still has the original rubber boot or leather boot, and I like that look. So it's like, I'm gonna leave all that. The only I don't have floor mats. Did yours come with the original floor mats, or?
Mine came with, yes, it has the original floor mats in it.
Nice.
Yep.
I thought about that, but
they're in pretty decent shape.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's should be an easy thing to do. It's surprising how expensive floor mats are, but
I know. Yeah. No, I'm glad mine are in decent shape.
Yeah. Right on. So how much do you drive your car? Are you is it a daily driver, or weekends, once a month, 10 times a month? Do you do a lot of parades or car shows?
I do a lot of parades, a lot of car shows with it. During the summer, or I shouldn't say just during the summer, pretty much when it's not raining, I try to drive it. So last time I drove it was on Saturday, and it's looking like so far the rest of the week up here is supposed to be kind of rainy, so I don't know when I'll get a chance to drive it again. But in the summer, I drive it whenever I can. It's not it's not the car I take to work or anything like that. Although, sometimes I will.
If the weather's good, middle of summer, yeah.
Exactly. Well, to get to work, I take a commuter train in, and there's no way I'm leaving my DeLorean at a transit center all day.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
No way I'm doing that.
Yeah, that's definitely just a scream for come steal me in a park and ride.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
That's funny. I picked up my car less than 1 week before I left my corporate job, and I took it to work and showed it off to everybody because I'm sure I've said this before. I bought my car 3 months before I told anybody about it. And at work, I had, a model on my desk, or a couple models on my desk, and it was my desktop background, and I did a lot of meetings. So everybody knew I was a DeLorean nut. But when I bought it, because it needed a lot of work, I didn't tell anybody because I didn't want to be that guy that said, "Oh, I bought a DeLorean." They're like, "Where is it?" "Oh, it's in the shop." So I didn't tell anybody about it.
Yeah.
And then I surprised everybody when I had it parked out front, and everybody came out and was like, "Oh, ooh, ah," and lots of pictures, and it was fun. But I haven't had the chance to drive a DeLorean to work on a regular basis to share it with people. So I don't know what that's like. Have you driven your car to work every now and then?
Every now and then I do. The only difference is I work in downtown Seattle, so it stays in a parking garage, and not very many people get to see it.
That's true. Yeah.
I have taken one or two of my coworkers down to look at it. They're always impressed with it. And then one night we did like happy hour, and I was giving someone a ride to the ferry. She was going to take one of the ferries over to one of the islands, and she saw the car and like freaked out. She's like, "Oh my God, I got to take a picture of this for my son."
Nice. Yeah, it's fun. That's the fun part about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
What brought you to buy a DeLorean? How old were you the first time you saw one? What led up to it?
Well, like a lot of the younger owners, I was introduced to the DeLorean through Back to the Future. When the first one came out in '85, I don't know if my parents took me to see it or not. If they did, I was too young to remember. But I do remember them taking me to see Part 2. And that was kind of my first introduction to the DeLorean. And then from then on out, whenever it was on TV or anything like that, eventually we bought a VHS copy of it. I would watch it. And the funny thing is, I remember I liked the whole movie, but the parts that I really paid attention to, that were just my favorites, were any scene that the car was in.
Right.
Yeah, and it was weird with me. I saw it in kind of out of order. The first one I can remember seeing is Part 2. Then I saw Part 3, and Part 1 was actually the last one that I saw. Yeah, and so then that kind of that started the fire with me.
Nice. Isn't that funny how here in Southern California, I've met a couple of owners who bought their cars before 1985, before Back to the Future came out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know a few up here who've done that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, man, I'm so jealous of you guys. You have such a great community up there, and a lot of older owners. People have had the car a long time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's interesting that, I don't know, what would you say, 95% of people that buy DeLoreans all say, "Oh, I saw the movie as a kid, and that's what kind of got me hooked on the car."
Yeah, I'd say the vast majority of people, that have them, that's what their story tends to be.
Every now and then there's an owner that I talk to that are anti Back to the Future. They get pissed off because people always make the jokes and comments. I'm like, hey, get over it. That's, if it wasn't for those movies,
you have to live with it.
Yeah, well, not just live with it. I think people need to embrace it.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean do a time machine conversion or put a flux capacitor in your car. It just means that's what people have memories of it and they love it. So let them enjoy that.
Exactly. Yeah.
You don't have to talk about the movie with them, but at least don't be dismissive. And I've seen that. Some people are just, they don't like it at all.
Yeah. Yeah, there are some that don't like it at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I know one owner that I met my first year in the club, and he was asking me how, kind of what you just asked me, how did you, first get into the car? I said, Back to the Future. How about you? I hate Back to the Future. I bought my car before that movie came out.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We won't talk about that then.
What was your process for finding your car? Had you decided to buy it at a certain, 20 years ago, or was it a spur of the moment?
I knew that I wanted one when I got really into the car. And as a kid, I don't know, I felt like I was a bit different from other kids who liked it. They liked it because it was like, oh, it's a time machine. I actually, I would go to the library and I would check out what few books there were on DeLorean, and I read up on them, and I actually learned the history of it. And then the first time I ever saw one in person, believe it or not, when I went into 6th grade, my teacher actually owned a DeLorean.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was the car that she drove. Yeah, she drove it to school every day. I guess her husband had it for a number of years, and they hadn't been driving it much. It had just been sitting in their garage. And so I guess she told him that, look, we either need to drive this thing or we need to sell it. So he's like, okay, you're going to start taking it to work because I don't want to drive it to where I work. So she would drive it to school, and I think the first day I went up and told her, how much I liked the cars. So she took me out, she showed it to me, and then during the year, if there was ever anything she forgot in her car or something like that, she'd send me out to get it.
Oh, that's
and then actually on the last day of school, yeah, she asked my mom, because I didn't live that far away, she goes, can I give Shawn a ride home in the car? And I didn't even wait for my mom to answer. I'm just like, yes, you can. So that was my first experience riding in one. And then the next time I sat in one was when I bought mine.
Oh,
But
wow.
that experience, my 6th grade year, that's when I told myself, okay, you're going to have one of these someday.
6th grade, you were about 12 years old?
About 12 years old, yeah. So then fast forward to, fall 2014? Maybe like late summer or something. I was sitting there, and I don't know what came over me, but I had thought, I was like, I need a toy, and I thought that, I'm like, well, you're always talking about getting a DeLorean. Why don't you, you're not married yet, you don't have any kids, you have a good job. Why not see about buying one? So I started to really save up my money and then started looking around for them. It took me a few months. There was one that came up for sale on Craigslist that was like $15,000, and I wrote to the guy and asked, hey, can I come look at it? And he said, well, actually, someone else just got here, just wrote to me before you did, and they want to come look at it first. And so, but if he doesn't buy it, then you can come look at it. So I'm like, okay. And then a couple days later, wrote to him again. He said, yeah, the guy bought it.
Yeah.
But that made me even more determined. So eventually what happened is I went to DMC Northwest and met Toby Peterson, and he actually had 3 cars in there that were for sale. So he spent like 2 hours with me, answering my questions and telling me about DeLoreans and stuff like that. And then when I went in that day, I didn't necessarily intend to buy one that day. I knew I was close to buying one, but I was like, okay, don't go in there and get all excited and make an offer on the first one you see. And after 2 hours, I'm like, I want that one, and Toby was like, okay, well, it was on consignment. He's like, okay, well, I'll let the owner know and see what he says and see if we can't agree on a price. And then a few days later, he emailed me back and said that the owner had accepted my offer.
Wow. That's awesome.
Day later, I took him my check, and then he did some work on the car, and then I picked it up on December 19th, 2014.
Nice.
And I was like you. I didn't tell any of my friends that I was buying one. And so the next day, one of my friends was throwing a big Christmas party. So on Facebook the next day, I threw up a picture of it, and I just said, my Christmas present arrived. And then I got texts and calls from a bunch of people going, did you buy a DeLorean? I'm like, yeah, no, you better be driving it tonight. So that night was kind of my first unofficial car show.
Oh, that's awesome. Really fantastic that you got a car through Toby Peterson. I mean, he knows so much.
Yes.
Ex-Boeing engineer who loves the car and has designed and built tons of stuff for the car. I'm sincerely jealous.
He really has, yeah.
I'm jealous that I don't live closer. You guys are so lucky to have him right there. And he is so patient.
I say that to people all the time. Yes, he is. He's really, I mean, when I was there talking to him, I mean, he didn't know me. For all he knew, I was this guy that was just going to pepper him with a bunch of questions about DeLoreans, and then he'd never hear from me again. He stayed there and talked with me after he technically had closed up for the day.
Yeah.
And he never once said,
hurry up, kid.
I really appreciate talking to you, but I gotta. Yeah, exactly. He never said anything like that. So he was just great.
When I was there in March, I said before, I lived in Seattle for many years. I was a member of the PNDC back in the 90s, but didn't have a car. I knew Arnie Brandon. I'd been to a couple of tech events, but I did not know anybody else. And I don't know if Toby was around back then or not. I didn't remember him, but in the year or two before buying my car, and then once I bought my car,
I think he was.
He probably was. I just don't remember him. I honestly didn't remember anybody.
Right. Yeah.
So when I was there in March and ended up getting a ride for the parade and went to the car show at the Space Needle afterwards, and then went to the party that evening, got a chance to talk and get to know a bunch of people, and finally got to chit chat with Toby more. And then I went over to his shop. And same thing, he spent so much time. I wasn't looking to buy a car. I was not going to have him do any work on my car. But he just was so patient and friendly and helpful. And yeah,
Yeah.
he is just fantastic. Not that other people haven't been, but
Yeah.
I feel like more so than others, are just super helpful and friendly. So he's the guy. If anybody is listening to this and decides they want to get a DeLorean and you're anywhere in the Pacific Northwest, track down Toby Peterson. He's the guy that'll help you find a good car. And every car has issues. It doesn't mean he's going to sell you he's going to find a pristine one for you, but he'll be honest. He's not sly about it. He's not trying to get you to take something off anybody's hands. He's pretty straightforward.
No, he's not a used car salesman.
Right. He's
like there's that
car DeLorean lover,
kind of the snake oil salesman. Yeah, exactly. That's what he is.
Yeah.
Yes.
So before you got your car, were you a member of the Pacific Northwest DeLorean Club, or how quickly did you join?
I was not. I got my car, and then just after the holidays, I had to take it in. I had a new fuel pump put in it and a new windshield put in it, so I took it to Toby for that. And when I went to pick it up after he was done with that work, he said, "Hey, just to let you know, have you thought about joining the Pacific Northwest DeLorean Club?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm going to get around and do that." And he goes, "Well, we're having our annual meeting tomorrow." So, and a lot of new members joined then. So he said, "So if you want to show up, I think that'd be great." So I'm like, "Okay, yeah, tell me where it's at." And then the next day I drove there in my car and, joined the club and met up with everyone. So I joined pretty quickly after I got the car.
Yeah. And how long have you been president of the club?
We just had our meeting last Saturday, so I've just started on my second year as president of the club.
So you guys do one-year terms?
Yeah, it's technically 1-year terms. Yeah. There's usually not a stampede of folks who want to be president, but
All right, so to go back to your car, you have had the car 3 years now. What's your longest road trip with it, or what's the longest distance you've driven? Because I know you guys go to Eastern Washington for some shows.
Yep, and that was my longest road trip. Last year, for the first time ever, I drove it from Seattle to Spokane for a nighttime parade that they have over there. We had, 7 DeLoreans caravanning across Washington.
Yeah. Not in the parade. You had 7 DeLoreans driving from Seattle to Spokane together, Eastern Washington.
Yes.
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And is that the Lilac Parade?
That was the Lilac Parade, yes.
Yeah. And then it's a nighttime parade, so you guys put lights on the cars.
Yes, yeah. I didn't with mine, but a lot of the others, they really dress theirs up. So I'm gonna have to get some lights for it this year.
Well, now with LEDs, it's so easy.
But it's a really fun parade.
It looks like it. Those pictures are amazing. And you were saying once you got your 7 cars over there, how many more were over there?
There was like another 4 or 5 cars that joined us over there.
In Eastern Washington, that's fantastic. We had the Christmas parade here last month. I think we had 5 DeLoreans in Southern California, and it was 81 degrees out. So this is why I always whine and complain.
How do you not have more? Yeah,
I know.
Yeah, because there are a ton of DeLoreans down in Southern California. Yeah. Yeah, you guys got to, the owners down there need to step it up if we can, do it. But that was the first time I actually got my car up to 88, so I can say that I've gone 88 miles in the DeLorean whenever someone asks me. Do
you have the 85 Speedo, or do you have the updated Speedo?
I have the 85 Speedo, but when we were driving, I had my I had one of those speedometer apps on my phone open, and I'm like, okay, I'm up to 88. I can say I've done it.
Just I drove the car yesterday. Was my 2-year anniversary. I drove it, and when I got on the freeway, I was trying to get around a big clump of traffic, and I noticed that, oh man, I hit 85. It didn't go any further. It just pegged at 85, and it stayed there for a while as I was slowing back down. I'm going, wow. I mean, I must have been going 90, at least 90 for a minute. And that was the first time I think that I've gone. Usually when I get close to 85, I'm like, I'm driving too fast. And it's only when I'm passing people. I'm not a speed demon.
Right.
Interesting. And I haven't run any of the GPS apps on the phone. But, there was a while back I saw something online that there's you can pull up on your smartphone one of those GPS apps, and then it will flip the image backwards. And when you put it up on the steering column, because of the angle of the plastic that covers the gauges, you almost get kind of a heads-up display on that gauge. Have you tried that or seen that?
Oh, weird. No, I've never tried that. I didn't even know you could do that.
Yeah, only because the angle that of the plastic there. That works. It kind of So somebody else had done that. I'm like, oh, that'd be kind of fun. Yeah, I haven't done it yet either. Even though I saw it, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. So it's not it's not a full heads-up display on the windshield, but it's bright, and obviously it works better at night because the phone is bright. Right. So that's your longest drive.
Yep, that's the longest drive I've ever been on. Yeah.
How many times have you done that?
Last year was my first year.
Oh, okay. Right on.
When I first got the car, I was kind of nervous about taking it on long distance drives. I don't know. I was like, first when I got it, I was paranoid about driving on the freeway. It's like I hope no one hits me or something like that. But I've gotten over that.
Yeah.
So I was also paranoid about driving it in the rain. When then eventually I told myself, "This is stupid. You live in Seattle. It's going to happen."
A lot.
Yeah. And it's not like the car is going to melt or something like that. It's made of stainless steel.
Right. Now, yesterday also was the first time we went over. A couple of us went and met at Don Steger's new shop, and it was raining pretty good here in Southern California. We don't get tons of crazy rain, but yesterday and today it was raining pretty good, and we had talked about the fact that you can't really break that rear end loose. I mean, there's so much weight back there. You don't have 300 horsepower, so it's pretty tough to spin the tires.
No, you definitely don't.
And yesterday was the first time that I'll say I purposely, when I was making a left turn, there was nobody on my side. I did it on purpose. I gave it extra gas and turned it extra hard just to get the rear end to spin out, and still had good control over it. But it was the first time I had done that. But that's only because everything was wet, and first time we've had rain in a long time, so the streets were oily. I'm like, okay, well, now I've done it. I'm over it. I don't need to be fishtailing the DeLorean around.
I did that. Don't need to do it again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I used to do that in the Miata up in Seattle, but that didn't, the Miata was replaceable car, it was a toy. That literally was a toy.
Yeah.
So I wasn't as bothered by that.
Exactly, yeah. I actually saw a video on I think it was on Facebook today or something, of someone like in a snow-covered parking lot trying to spin their DeLorean.
Really?
I think that was today I saw that.
I will have to look for that. And there's every now and then I see the fun ads from DeLorean back in the day, the print ads of the ski rack. They had a ski rack attachment for the DeLorean. Have you seen those?
Yes, I actually have one.
Oh, you do? You have a rack, or you have the ski rack?
I have one. I have they call it a luggage rack, but you could attach skis to it.
Oh, that's so funny. I blew it. I'd only had the car, I think, for a couple months, and somebody in Vegas was selling the luggage rack for $99, and I called up the DMC California. I'm like, hey, should I get this? And they're like, yeah, you really don't need it, and I didn't buy it. And now I'm kicking myself. I'm like, dang it, man, for $100?
You don't need it. They're really nice to have.
Yeah.
If you ever get a flat tire. I mean, hopefully you'll never get one, but it's nice to have that.
So that I think I mentioned this on a previous episode. I posted on DMC Talk asking, did a survey and said, how many miles have you driven and gotten a flat tire and successfully used the spare? Almost nobody. There was like 24, 25 responses, and there was 2 people that had ever used the spare. So, and my thing is, I live in Southern California. If I'm going to drive to San Francisco or Las Vegas, AAA is a simple phone call away. I am never putting the spare on the DeLorean, unless it's the zombie
apocalypse. That's
probably
what I'll do if I ever get a flat.
Yeah, right. So I've been debating whether or not to pull the spare out of the car and get that couple extra inches of space if I'm going someplace and I want to put a bag in there. Because Jay Shetland, in March when I was there this last year, I had met Jay at the previous DeLorean weekend, and we became friendly, and he had Toby working on his car. And we connected, and I was like, wait, are you there?
I actually saw his car, when I was there.
At Toby's shop in March. So that's how I ended up driving with Jay back to Salt Lake, because I just changed my airline ticket. But I didn't plan on driving a DeLorean back. So my suitcase is a hard shell, pretty big hard shell case, and I was going to be there for 3.5 weeks. So I didn't have an overnight bag. It was a full-size piece of luggage. Well, when Jay said he was coming to pick up his car, I was like, how much stuff do you have in your trunk? Because there's no way my luggage would fit in the trunk closed. So luckily he didn't have a bunch of stuff in there. I had to open my suitcase and have it open in the trunk of the DeLorean just for the hood to close. So it was kind of funny getting gas. You open it up, there's all my clothes and all my junk in an open suitcase in the trunk. I think I got a picture of that. Yeah, that's pretty funny. In your 3 years now, have you had any significant breakdowns?
No, not really. The car was in pretty good shape when I bought it, and I've tried to keep it up. I regularly take it to Toby for maintenance and stuff like that, and then I do my own oil changes on it. But this last summer, I did have an incident where I was driving down the freeway, and the engine just all of a sudden shut off on me, and so I'm like, crap. So I pull over to the side. I was actually on my way to a PNDC tech session. So I pull over to the side. I call Toby, tell him I'm on the side of the freeway and that the car had stopped and I couldn't get it started. And so he said, well, check the inertia switch, see if it's that. It wasn't. That was fine. And then I went back and I looked in the engine. Everything seemed to be in order. So I was like, I don't know. I'm just going to call AAA, have them send a tow truck, get it up to your place, and then we can look at it at the tech session. Toby's like, all right, fair enough. So tow truck finally comes after about an hour. We load it on there. We drive up there, and I was all worried because that was the first time I had it towed. And that whole thing about they say don't let tow truck drivers, don't let them do it backwards, and don't let them put the because of the louvers, and don't let the tow truck drivers put the winch cables on the control arms.
Right.
It turned out this guy had towed DeLoreans before, and he knew exactly what he was doing. So we That's got funny. Up there, and we unloaded it, and then we poked around the car for probably close to an hour. Toby was doing some other stuff, so it was me and a couple other owners. Then Toby comes over, takes the cover off the ignition coil, and goes, wait a minute. He goes, is the battery off? And I'm like, yeah, the kill switch is off. So he takes a wire that I hadn't noticed that had slipped off, slides it on, and goes, try it. I turn the key, it starts right up.
Oh, no. So I was going to say something with alternator or battery, because that's usually what it is. But
no, it was a wire had worked its way loose.
On your kill switch?
Well, no, it wasn't the kill switch. It was off of the ignition coil. Oh. One of the wires coming off of it had just worked its way loose, so he just slid it back on, and it was fine.
Wow.
And then he said it was kind of loose. And that's probably what happened is, driving down the road with the bumps and stuff, it probably just caused it to eventually come off. So we crimped it down on there a little bit harder. And then after that, I kept checking it for a little while afterwards to make sure it was still tight on there.
It's not a screw on, it's a push on.
Yeah.
There's no nut to hold that one on. I'm going to have to look at that. That's curious.
Yeah.
Interesting. Cool. So is that the only time you've been towed?
That is the only time I've been towed. Yeah.
I have not had the.
Oh, you'll have the, what do they call it? The ride of shame. Something like that.
I have not had the ride of shame yet.
Yeah. Everyone was giving me a bad time when I showed up to the tech session. They're like, "Oh, it finally happened to you. It's about time." In fact, the tow truck driver, when he was unloading my car, he said to one of the other guys who was there, he's like, "Haven't I towed your car before?" He's like, "Yeah."
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, that time that I took it to work, that I'd had the car less than a week.
I
was waiting for people to come down from the office because it was actually my going away lunch, and we were walking across the street to the restaurant. Well, I had parked the car in front. I had the doors open and the lights on because it looks cooler that way. I knew nothing about the car. Right? I had had the car a week, so sure enough. Sitting out there as long as I did with everything turned on, by the time people came out and chit-chat and blah, 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 I've got, 15 people standing there, and I turned the key. I killed the battery with all the lights.
Oh.
Sucked.
I killed my battery once, too. Yeah.
From the same thing, leaving the lights on?
No, it was actually, I have a CB radio in my car, and I had accidentally left that on for a week. I was out of town, so I came back, hadn't noticed anything. I went to get in the car to start it up, and first thing I noticed is, the lights in the door weren't on. And I'm like, great, there's probably a short in there. I need to replace a bulb or something. Turned the key, and nothing.
Nothing, yeah.
So I'm like, crap. And luckily, I was still in my garage, so I just jump-started it from my truck and then let it run for a while, drove it around, and then it was fine.
Yeah.
And then I just kind of like, hey, the CV's on.
Now you remember.
Exactly. I always remember now.
I would much rather have my car towed to a DeLorean tech session because nobody there is going to, they might tease you, but nobody's really, they all know what it's about.
Exactly. Everyone has had their own experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In 3 years, do you have a favorite experience or story about driving the car or sharing the car shows, anything like that?
Oh God, I've had so many good experiences in it. I can't remember them all. Oh, one story that I can remember that was pretty cool. It happened to me last summer. I was out with a bunch of friends. We were at a bar, and I had just come from a PNDC event, so I was wearing my PNDC polo shirt. And we were talking to this couple. It was a wife and her husband, and we were talking to them, and they were fairly friendly, pretty cool people. And then finally, the wife notices my shirt. She goes, "Oh my God, I love DeLoreans." And I'm like, and her husband's like, "Yeah, no kidding." She goes nuts for him, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I love them too. That's why I bought one." And she's like, "No, you don't have one." And I'm like, yes, I have one." And she goes, "Show me a picture." So I show her a picture. And she's like, "I still don't know if you have one." And I go, "It's outside if you'd like to go see it." And she's like, "You better not be lying." And I'm like, "I'm not lying." So she's like, "Oh my God." And so then her and her husband come out with me, and she sees it there and just goes nuts over it. So I opened it up for her. She let her sit in it, took some pictures of her and her husband and stuff. They were really cool people. And she really, it was amazing too. A lot of people who like DeLoreans, they don't necessarily know the history of them. She did.
Yeah.
She didn't like the history of the company and all that. And I'm like, wow, more often than not, people, just know it as, oh yeah, DeLorean was in Back to the Future.
Right. You know what? I had that happen two weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. I finally got around. I've been wanting to do it literally for years, well before I had the car. And then for the last 2 years that I've had the car, I've wanted to go to a drive-in theater with the DeLorean. Went to pick up a friend, and while I was waiting for him to come down, I was parked right outside the elevator, and I've got my door open just because airflow. And while I'm sitting there, two or three guys come walking by, and they're like, "Oh, hey, man, a DeLorean, so cool." And the one guy turns to the other guy, goes, "Yeah, the DeLorean got set up by the DEA." And I got out of the car. I was like, "Okay, you are the first person that is." Everybody else is like, "Oh, he's a drug dealer." I said, "Yeah. How in the world did you? Yep. How do you know that? Because most people do." He goes, "Well,
no, most people don't."
Yeah, they don't get the rest of the story. All they saw was that front page, and they never read the retraction on page 27. 2 years later. So I was really impressed that the guy actually knew that it was all a setup, and it wasn't him.
I've run into a couple of people who knew that, but that was at car shows, and so it was people that
hardcore car people, yeah.
Probably knew, exactly, hardcore car people. But just your average Joe on the street, most of them don't know that.
Yeah, that's why I was so blown away to hear the guy start to explain to the other guy about it. In a parking garage at a condo complex. That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
So do you have a worse story as well where? I've heard the people arguing. I've heard that there are stories about the people that argue at car shows, and they're like, "Oh no, it was the underframe is made of plywood," or "No, it was built down the street here." And
yeah, I've had a couple of people at car shows who are stating stuff that's just blatantly incorrect, and I haven't had anyone argue with me yet about it though yet. Probably it's not a worse story, but it was kind of. To show you how some people are. This wasn't too long after I got the car. It was my first year owning it, and it was that spring. It was a warm day outside. I'd gone to a Starbucks. I was sitting outside with my drink right near the car. Some guy comes up and starts taking pictures of it, and it's like him and I were the only one close to the car. He looks at me, he's like, "Hey, DeLorean for Back to the Future. Oh, yeah, yep. And then I was going to let him take a few more pictures and offer to open the door for him.
Yeah.
And then he goes, well, a friend, my, brother's friend's cousin, whatever, or something, had one once before. And I'm like, oh, really? He goes, yeah. So, I've sat in it. I've been around them quite a bit. Oh, really? He goes, they're not very good cars. And at this point, he hadn't realized that I was the owner, even though there weren't a ton of other people there.
Yeah.
And so then I look at him and I go, that's my car. Just kind of, just say, yeah, that's my car. And the guy kind of looks at me and goes, oh, scurries off. He thought he was like impressing me.
Yeah. I've had that discussion with a couple people at car shows where they're even standing there with the car, like, oh yeah, they're a terrible car. Like, I have had almost no problems with them, and they usually do pretty good. It depends on the person driving them. And I think most people go off of 30 years ago. I will say the DeLorean was not a good car. There was enough engineering problems that people hadn't figured out yet. But over the last 30 plus years, people like PNDC and other places have figured out how to make the car more reliable and fix this problem and that problem. And now generally you don't have an issue.
Exactly. Yeah.
Except for when they catch fire. I assume you've seen those videos and the pictures of that car in Utah.
Oh, I've seen those videos. Yeah, I've seen the one that's been going around lately. Yeah.
I feel bad for the guy. Yeah. There's a little controversy that I've been reading. There's some people saying it's a scam or not, and I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what to believe. Me either. I think the guy that owned the car had, one of the first things I read was he was selling it for $70,000 that day when it caught fire. Yeah, I read that. And I was like, 70 grand? Nobody's paying 70 for a stock car. I have not seen, no one is. No. So that was my first thing. I was like, that's kind of weird. And then the story about the Rite Aid thing, that he went inside, they wouldn't give him a fire extinguisher. And now there's somebody from the Rite Aid is like, I gave you a fire extinguisher and you didn't take it. I don't know what the truth is. I'm not going to make a judgment on that guy. Saying he got rear-ended. Oh yeah, I saw that too. Yeah, I don't know what to think about it. Me either. Yeah, he's like, oh, it got rear-ended, and that may have been what caused the fire. Which I'm like, I've heard of other DeLoreans getting rear-ended, none of them caught fire. But like you said, the whole thing's kind of weird. I read through the comments and stuff. It's mildly amusing, but I'm certainly not going to insert myself or make any comments on it. Well, we are right now. But what comes to mind is it's the old argument about replacing those fuel lines, because if you do not which touch, I've done. That's good, and I have not yet. I'm going to very soon, especially because of this. It just reminds me, but in talking with other people, it's like, if you don't touch the fuel lines, literally don't physically touch them, they're probably okay. But what happens, I guess, is that people will start working on the engine and they'll rub against them or push them. Literally just touching them can cause the tubes inside that rubber shield to crack, and that's how you end up with fuel leaks. Yes. So I was like, okay, so nobody now is going to touch that under that engine until those fuel lines get replaced, because I do not want the fire. Yeah. No. The last episode I had Dara Sloan on, and then I think 009 I had Manson Chung on, who works at Hot Wheels. Both of them, and I'm 99.9% sure they don't know each other, they both bought the Blaze Cut fire suppression ring. It's just a flexible piece of tubing that you zip tie underneath, so that when it catches fire, when something catches fire, the plastic melts and it dumps the suppressant real quick. So I started back when I talked to Manson last year. I had been thinking about it. I had done some research, but then when Dara said she had done it and that this fire just happened, I started digging in and doing a bunch more research, because I'm like, okay, for $150, that's a little piece of insurance, pretty inexpensive. The installation is literally zip tying it on, but all the videos and all the examples and all the reading that I had done, they were all in enclosed compartments. And the DeLorean, there's a ton of venting on that engine cover. So I thought, I wonder. So I emailed Blaze Cut, and I sent them pictures of with the louvers up but the engine bay closed, and then I sent a second picture that had the engine cover open so they could see the engine. I said, can I use blaze cut in this configuration? And the guy replied back and said, no, the blaze cut is not going to work on your car. There's too much ventilation there.
Really?
Yeah. And I
so
said,
it won't get hot enough to melt the plastic or something?
Apparently, yeah. Now, obviously, when the whole thing is engulfed, I'm sure it will, but by then it's probably not enough suppressant to put the fire out.
Yeah, it's a moot point then. Yeah.
So, and when you watch the videos, it's amazing. They literally spray gasoline on an engine with the blaze cuts, inside of the hood, and then they set fire, they close the hood, and within a minute, boom, you can see it pop, and it puts it out. And then a minute later, one of the videos, they start the car right back up. Like, that's pretty amazing. But with our cars, there's so much ventilation there.
Yeah. Huh, that's interesting.
Now I'm trying to figure out another solution. Because I'm concerned about, having a fire extinguisher is great, but by the time you figure out that you've got a fire, that means there's flames, right? So trying to open the louvers.
Yes.
And then that engine cover is going to be hot because it's metal. Then you've got to not just open it, but then you've got to get that thing to latch. Whether you've got the latch on the louvers or you've got the spring-loaded latch at the back, trying to keep that engine bay open and shoot it with a fire extinguisher, I don't know.
Without burning your arm off.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know if it's going to be possible. Yeah. So I'm going to have to start asking people.
I don't know how you could do that. Yeah. Yeah.
So now one of the things, so the guy from Blaze Cut did say you probably need a bottle system, which is basically the same thing. There's a bottle that is you mount, and then you've got your plastic hoses around there, but that's got a lot more suppressant. The Blaze Cut, the $150 version is literally a single tube.
Right.
So it can put out the fire when it starts, but once you've got a pretty good fire, it's not. I think it's not going to be enough. So now I'm kind of looking, going, okay,
right,
what's the cost of one of those bottle systems? Well, I think the ones I was looking at were like $400, $600, and I'm going, well, is that worth it? Because really, if you replace the fuel lines, that's the problem. The cars don't catch fire if it's not for that.
Usually, that's the big problem is old fuel lines or people that have done incorrect repairs on the fuel lines.
Right, but it's always related to that.
Exactly. It's always related to that.
Yeah. So now I'm just thinking, okay, rather than spending $400, $500, $600+ on a fire suppressant system, it's better to just put that money into the fuel lines and injectors and all new washers and screws and all that stuff. So that's going to be my next thing is doing that.
Yeah, very worthwhile investment. I mean, even if your old fuel lines are fine, like they're still 30 some years old, and it's nice to have that peace of mind. That's like, okay, my fuel lines are new, so the odds of them springing a leak is a lot lower.
Yeah. And I this probably sounds really stupid. When that happened, I actually, for a minute, I actually thought maybe I shouldn't drive the DeLorean until I do those fuel lines. I mean, it sounds dumb, but I was like, geez, I just drove to Northern California and back, and I've been to Vegas and back, no problem. So it was just, I got freaked out all of a sudden.
I right before I got mine replaced, another car had caught fire not too long before that, and I had the same thoughts. It was like, maybe I shouldn't drive this thing until the fuel lines are replaced on mine. Yeah.
Another car caught fire up there in Seattle area?
No, it was, I think it was posted on DMC Talk or something.
Got it. And the last one I saw was Paul Nye's car, his time machine conversion here in Southern California had caught fire, and luckily he got it out, so it was basically just the back end of the car was destroyed.
Right.
And he was able to get it all fixed.
Was that fuel line related? I forget.
Yeah, I think it was. Yep. I'm 95% sure that was fuel line again. It'd be interesting to start kind of polling people to find out when they've had the fires, just to confirm that that's it. I can't think of any other reason. That's the reason why.
Right.
If mufflers get hot, they might cook whatever's inside, but they generally don't catch fire.
Right. Yeah. No, they don't. Yeah. Well, I know we had. This was another story I was told that helped make my decision a lot easier as to whether or not to get new fuel lines. A few years ago, this is before I was a member, a bunch of PNDC members were over in Yakima for a parade, and a car in the parade caught fire. Now, I guess luckily there was a fire truck that was also in the parade, and it was just like a couple of floats back. And I guess they turned on their lights or something. They came up and they put the fire out before it got too bad. But he had he had just put his fuel system back together. I forget if the lines were new or not, but he had just been working on them.
Yeah. Scary.
And I think, he had leaned on them like right before the parade or something like that. Yeah, it is kind of scary. So.
Well, make sure it's done right. I guess that's the trick. So.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got new radio. You've got new front suspension. Anything else in the car that's different for your car?
Mm-hmm. Oh, one thing I forgot. I have one of those fake Momo steering wheels.
Oh, yeah. How do you like it?
I actually really like it. Feels good. I like kind of like the thicker grip that it has on it. Feels a lot better than the stock one.
Is that why you did it? Because you wanted a thicker grip, or was there something wrong with your other steering wheel?
I thought it looked cool too.
Okay.
The thicker grip and the fact that it looked cool. Those were the only reasons.
Yeah. Yeah, I know Don Steger is selling a car right now, and he was really excited about the new steering wheel. And I think it's an original, but he got it recovered by an upholsterer, and it looks thicker.
Oh, nice.
Or maybe it is a Momo or a fake Momo, but he was really excited about the new steering wheel. I'm like, I personally like the steering wheel. I wish there was an airbag in it.
Yeah.
But...
Well, I don't have any problem, with the original ones. Yeah. That'd be nice, but yeah.
You've been the president of the Pacific Northwest DeLorean Club for the start of your second year.
Yes.
Let's talk about the club, because I reference you guys a lot.
Okay.
I tell lots of people how envious I am of how many people you have, how active the club is. You guys do 3 or 4 tech sessions a year. Like I said, I was a member of PNDC years ago. I'm a current member right now. It's what is it, $20 a year, and you guys send out 4 newsletters a year.
$20, only $20 a year. Yep.
Great resource, and it's also nice, even though I don't know the people up there, having phone numbers, email, contact information. It's nice that I can reach out to the people up there and just say, hey, I've got a question, or I understand
absolutely.
You're the guy that did this, or you have that. And I sincerely, I'm not hawking it for you guys. I think it's worth it. I like the idea of supporting a club because you guys are so active and do some great stuff.
We actually are really active. Yeah, we last year we had 22 events that we did. Not to mention we got 22 events, and then we get requests all the time, to appear, for cars to appear like at weddings or graduations, or someone will be having an 80s party and ask us if we'll bring a car to that.
So the 22 events does not include those special requests?
No, it does not include those. We schedule 22 events per year typically.
What kind, that is
that's what it has been.
What kind of attendance do you get to those?
It really depends on the event. For things like the Seattle St. Patrick's Day Parade, I think last year we had
9 cars.
9 cars.
You had 9 cars in the parade.
9 cars last
only
year.
Because I was there, so I know you had 9 cars in the parade, and you had 8 at the car show at the Space Needle because one person peeled off.
And then the year before was the year we had 12 cars in the parade.
Wow, that's all. You almost have two events a month, though.
Yeah, about. Some months, like when the summer months hit, we'll have. I think last June, we had we had 3 events that month.
Wow.
Yeah, the Seattle St. Patrick's Day Parade is one of our big ones. The Spokane Lilac Festival Parade, that's another big one. We talked about that a little earlier. Portland has a nighttime parade in June called the Starlight Parade, which I think last year we were allowed to have 8 cars there.
Wow.
Because they restrict the size of each participating group. Otherwise, I think we'd have a lot more because that parade's supposed to be really cool. Let's see. We do a car show in Issaquah every Father's Day, and last year I think we had 11 cars there.
Ah, so jealous. And your tech days, I know I had called Arnie probably over a year ago because I wanted to put together a tech day here in Southern California, and I was concerned that having DMC California so close by, that a tech event wouldn't go off because everybody just takes their cars there for work. So I called Arnie Brandon, the previous president of PNDC, and said, hey, you know, does it work? And he's like, oh, we had a tech event yesterday and 18 cars showed up. Like, what?
Yeah, the tech events are, I mean, even if you don't need work done to your car, there's like the whole social aspect of going to one, which is actually, the tech events are one of my favorite things that we do. And like, I'll go to them even if I don't need anything done to my car, and I'll just hang out and talk with the other owners or help someone else with their car if I can. You know, the stuff I can work on a DeLorean is still somewhat limited, but I like going there and talking and, you know, learning how to do different stuff. And yeah, they're great.
Very cool. For the 1,000th time, I'm jealous that you guys are so active.
And we have, we have 4 tech events in the Seattle area per year. We alternate between Toby's shop and then one of our other members. He has a garage with a lift in it. And then there's also, we try to do a tech event when we go over for the Spokane parade. We do a tech event in Yakima, and then we do a tech event down in Portland.
Oh, so they're not, oh, wow. So you are spread out. You're not doing it at the same place every time.
We try to give, I mean, most of our members are around the Seattle area, but we have a pretty good contingent down in Oregon, pretty good contingent over in Eastern Washington, so we include them too.
Lucky. PNDC.org is the website, right?
Yep. Yeah, and like you were saying, it's only $20 a year, 4 newsletters, and obviously you don't have to live in the Northwest region to be a member. You don't have to own a DeLorean to be a member. If you're from out of the area and ever up visiting and want to get in touch, please let us know. And if we have an event going, you're always invited. Not
just that you send out the printed newsletters, but you guys do a great job of sending out email as well, saying, hey, there's an event coming up, and you always have the events listed in there.
Yeah, we try to have weekly emails go out.
Yeah, that's and great information there. Even if it's, I mean, I look at it and I'm like, dang it, I wish I was close by because that looks like fun. But it, like you said, it's the social aspect of getting together. I tried for many months just to do like a Thursday night, you know, Sonic driving in and out burger meetup where it's not a 4-hour commitment.
Right.
And after 4 months, I gave up because it was me and Skip and Patty. It was like other people would show up, and I was making phone calls, sending email reminders, trying to get people to come out. And people are busy, I get that, but I'm like, it's a Thursday night at 7 o'clock. Grab a burger, get a soda, sit and visit for half an hour, and then leave. But couldn't get anybody to go. Must be me.
Well, we have times where like we'll have an event scheduled, and the attendance is somewhat light, but it just depends on everyone's schedules. And I mean, sometimes it can feel like herding cats to try to get everyone to show up at a certain place at a certain time.
Sure. Are you going to DCS this year?
I've thought about it. I'm actually getting a lot of pressure from some of the other folks I know to go, so maybe I'll have to. I hear they're really cool.
I went last year or 2 years ago.
Right.
Shawn, you have to go. There's no question about it. I mean, figure out the finances and go. I'm sure this one will be just as good as the last one.
Yeah.
I've heard some people that had been to lots of previous DCS, they're like, well, this last one was not as good. I was blown away. There was, I don't know, I think that there was 50-something cars there, tons of owners, and I'd only had my car for 6 months, so I still was a baby. You have to go. If you don't, I promise you will be kicking yourself. Even though you have such a great community up there, this is a chance to talk to the people from the East Coast as well.
Right.
Listen to some amazing stories, see some great cars, because those guys aren't driving out west, and we're not driving out east. So it's a nice chance to see some of those cars and swap stories. I'm going for sure, and I'm still trying to figure out how to maybe do some kind of live interviews or something for DeLorean Talk when I'm there. I've also thought about doing kind of a roundtable thing where you just put a couple of mics on the table and invite half a dozen people to sit around a table and just BS for 45 minutes and share stories.
Right. Yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to go.
Yeah, I'm going to try to find a way to make it work this year. So
put in your vacation request now because they have the dates.
Exactly.
Is it September 15th? Wait, September? Oh, shucks, I forgot.
Is it September? I thought it was going to be August.
August 15th through the 19th. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Let me just double check that. DeLorean Convention. August 15th through the 19th in St. Charles, Illinois.
Okay, cool. Well, I guess I know where I'm going this summer.
Seriously. And I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to them getting the website updated, DeLoreanConvention.com, because I want to know what days what's going on before I book my hotel and travel and all that stuff. Because I heard,
Right.
I think on DMC Talk there was a talk. Part of it is on the 15th is going to be a tech day, which could be interesting. But if I don't have a car, it might not be as interesting. So looking forward to them getting it updated.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see how they do that. Yeah.
Okay, so I ask a lot of people. You're a 3-year owner. What is in the trunk of your car?
In the trunk of my car, I have a tool set just in case I ever have to work on my car or anyone else's on the side of the road. I have a bottle of Windex and a lot of rags for car shows. And I have the DeLorean Luggage Rack, which you need to get, by the way.
Yeah. Well, believe me, I keep looking for them. I've seen it a couple times, and I'm not paying $300-something
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah, no.
At some point,
luckily,
I'll find-
Toby had one in stock, and so that's how I got it.
Lucky. Yeah, I'm kicking myself for that one in Vegas. I had asked, there was a couple of guys about a year and a half ago that over in, I want to say Germany, that they went camping in their DeLoreans.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, there is no way. First of all, where are you carrying your stuff? First of all. And second,
Yeah.
but they did real tent camping in Europe. And they sent me some pictures. And in fact, the article is up on DeLoreanDirectory.com under the articles section.
Oh, I'll have to check that out. Yeah.
They had a friend build them for both of the cars. They built a luggage rack, did some welding and stuff. It's not retail quality. They didn't make it to look perfect, but they did a pretty good job. And I was thinking, okay, other than getting the hardware that you have, for mounting onto the car, the rack itself could be just about anything, if you do it correctly.
It could, yeah.
So somebody out there, hint, hint, needs to come up with an aftermarket rack for the DeLorean, if for no other reason, just for those overnight trips when you want to be able to take one more bag.
Absolutely,
or something.
Yeah. It's definitely, and yeah, people, use those things for more than just tires or skis. Although I don't know who takes their DeLorean up skiing. But,
I want to see somebody take his DeLorean to go skiing. That would be funny.
I've seen pictures or a picture out there of a DeLorean with skis mounted on the rack, but I don't know if they actually took it up skiing or if it was a photo op or something. I don't know.
That was one I was talking about. I think that's an advertisement for DeLorean from back in the 80s.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I could be wrong. I don't know. I saw that picture a while back as well. Well, Shawn, thanks for hanging out and talking. I'm sure we could keep going on for a long time. I don't want to keep you forever. It's nice to talk to a club person from a good active club. I would really like to do more of these with presidents of the various clubs around the world to learn more about their club and the people that are there, and spread the word. And
oh, definitely, that'd be really great to hear. Yeah.
And it'd be a good way for the people that are maybe thinking about, or why should I join a club? Because I've heard a few people say, well, the reason why you don't have much activity in Southern California is because nobody wants to be parts of clubs anymore. Like, okay, I could buy that compared to 20, 30, 40 years ago, but it's about that socializing and learning from each other.
It totally is, yeah.
Jay Shetland and Dara and a few people are starting the DeLorean Motor Club Utah, DMCUtah.com, and
that's cool.
He didn't know the guy that the car burned up, and he's in Orem, which is 20 minutes south of where he lives. So the fact that you've got a DeLorean in the area that people don't know the guy, and it was his supposed dream car, how's that possible? And the guy looks kind of young, so maybe that's part of it. He doesn't want to hang out with older people. I don't know, but you're pretty young, and here you're now the president.
Yeah, and we have some younger people in our club. A couple of folks in the club that are actually younger than I am. I'm 35.
Wow. That are owners or non-owners?
Owners.
Wow. Okay, well, thank you for your time. And as I always talk about you guys, please give my good wishes to the club. And if I can ever do anything for you guys, if anybody in Seattle is ever down here, please definitely say something.
Will do.
Then I live right next door to Disneyland. but all of Southern California is easily accessible. I know Gordon and Chris Mack and a bunch of other guys in San Diego love visiting. So if anybody from Seattle or anywhere is anywhere nearby, let us know. It'd be fun to connect, and we'll drive our cars over and say hi.
Definitely, we'll let you know. And next time you're up here, give us a holler.
Especially now, no question. I definitely will. All right, well, to everybody out there who's listening, thank you very much for the emails and the comments. I'm mean it sincerely. I always say I'm not looking for cheerleaders. I'm looking for critics. I want to find out how to do this show better. So I appreciate the people that are writing in with suggestions on who to get on the show. And I will reach out to more people. Don't be shy. Write in and say, hey, I want to do the show, and give me a couple of dates and times, and we'll do it. Because this is really just about talking about the DeLorean and our experiences, kind of a living history show. So thank you again. Check out DeLorean Talk on pretty much all social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest. Check out DeLoreanDirectory.com. Look at the census. And if you have ideas or criticism for any of those, I'll take that as well. Be safe, upgrade your fuel lines, and I'll talk to you soon.